whole steps. Whole steps, it's when you combine the two half steps together. For example, between C node and D node, you have two half steps. See, you go up here, it's a half step, and then you go down here, it's another half step. Two of them create one whole step. Well, it kind of makes sense. Half plus half makes it whole. Okay, so let's try, look at our piano and see how our whole steps are located here. So again, we have a C note and D note. We say it is a whole step because there's a black key in between, creating that pattern of two half steps. Okay, so between C and D, it's a whole step. Between D and E, it's another whole step because there's a black key in between, creating two half steps, right? So we come to the whole step between D and E. Between E and F, remember, there's no black key here. There's no black key. So what does it mean? It means between E and F, it's only a half step. Half step. So how can we make a whole step, let's say between E, and we will be asked to maybe play a whole step up? What shall we do? Well, you have to use the F sharp in this case. Okay, that would be a whole step up. Okay, so let's try between F and G. F and G, it's a whole step because of the black key. Between G and A, it's a whole step, right? A whole step. And then another half step. Look, there's no black key between B and C. Okay, so here let's try our detective whole step. Here we have to answer 4 questions. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, 4 tasks, should I say. So the first one, you have to read the instructions right here. Put a check mark on the key a whole step higher than the key with an X. So here you have the example. You have a C note that is marked as an X. So you need to place a check mark a whole step higher. Okay, so this is the example. So let's continue here and mark our whole steps. Okay, so I'm going to use my copied page so I can reuse the same book. Okay, so this is the F sharp. So the whole step up, you'll need to build 2 half steps. So let's just do half steps. I can actually draw it here since it's my, practicing kind of paper. So this would be a whole step, a half step up, and that would be the second half step up, right? A zigzag. So between this and that node, you will have a whole step, and my check mark will go on that node, and I can erase this. Okay? So you can do like that. You can join your half steps together if it helps. Or if you see the whole step already, just mark it. Okay, so let's do the next one. We have that node as an X, right? And so we need to put a whole step up. So between this node and that node, it's 1 half step. And then between this node and that node, it's another half step. So the whole step would be from here into here. So my check mark will go here. Okay. Remember, between B and C, there is no black key, so between these 2 nodes, it's a half step. Okay, next, we have here, again, this is a half, so the whole, oops, I need to put a check mark. Okay, the whole step would be here. Okay, let's do one more, and then the rest you can do by yourself. Okay, so let's do this one. So we have E node and a whole step up. Remember, I cannot mark this node, this key, because there's no black key, and it creates only half step between these 2 keys. So the whole step would be actually F sharp. Okay, so you'll have to do this all by yourself. Okay, so let's do the next one a little bit. Here again, we need to put a check mark on the key a whole step lower. Make sure you read that word lower. Make sure you don't miss it. Then the keys with an X. So this is the first node we have with an X. So remember, now we have to go to the left, right? We go to the left because we go down. So from this node, a whole step down would be this node. Okay, why? Because you have a black key here, and then you go down. So half step, together they make a whole step. Okay, next one, we have this node. A whole step again will be half, so that creates a whole. Okay, can we do it here? Half. The answer is here. Okay, let's see if we can continue with that. Number 3, task number 3. Draw a whole step higher than the notes given. Use a sharp or a flat as needed. Okay, so this is the first example. Now we actually have to draw the notes. So you need to know exactly what note this is. So let's just mark it. That's going to be an A flat in the treble clef, A flat. Okay, let's play that. Let's go to our piano. So this is the normal A, and that's the A flat. So that's the starting note. And we're moving up. Remember, we are asked to go higher, a whole step higher. So what would be a whole step higher? Well, between this note and that note, that's a half step. So if you go here, that gives you another half step. So together, between this and that note, that's a whole step. So the answer would be this key. How would we write it? Well, let's say, remember, the black key, you can name it at least 2 different ways. Okay, so you can say, well, if I had A, let's just say this would be B, right? So let me mark it as a B. Hope you can see it here. So we have B note, okay, B note, and then remember, it's this B. It's not the white key. It's a black key. So we have to put a flat. Okay, let's see. Okay, that's a B flat. So the answer would be a B flat. Okay, let's do one more. Okay, so we have this note. What note is that in the treble clef? You think that's the first line, and that's an E note. Okay, all right, well, let's get to our piano, find the E, and we have to go up a whole step. So if we play this note, would that be a whole step? Not, it's not going to be, no. Why? Because there's no black key. So what do you need to do? You need to play this note. That would be a whole step between E and that note. Now, again, how would we represent this note? It could be F sharp or G flat. Which one do you pick? Well, let me pick an F because I kind of like the idea of stepping up. Is if you have E, I kind of like the idea of moving up a step. So that would be F. Okay? But what happens, don't forget the F sharp. You have to have an F sharp, otherwise it's only a half step. Okay, so F sharp. Here. I wrote it here. You don't have to write it here, but I did because it helps me to think notes and think spaces and think kind of more visual. Okay, well, see if you can continue with that. And the same thing in number 4, but this time you need to go downhill. You need to go to the left. So the first one, let's just mark, this is going to be a treble clef again. That's a G note. Let's find the G note. And you have to go down a whole step. So it will be this way, right? Because you have that half step here, together it creates a whole step. So this time you will play an F, and here you don't need the sharp, or you don't need any flat, because that's kind of, as it is, creates a whole step. All right, well, let's see if you can finish it up all by yourself. Happy practicing.